Hello, beautiful souls. So, I just wanted to do a quick little chat, kind of a random chat. So, we're going to get personal. Um, I really felt called to make a video on this subject. I don't know. It's kind of a rant, I guess. Maybe. But I hate labels. And I have this conversation with people frequently. I hate labels. Um, Labels are not for people. And I feel like, why does society feel the need to label people? Like, labels are for storage containers, and I'm totally gonna put that on a t-shirt. Um, Personally, like, okay, there's so many types of labels, right? Like, I'm a mom. That's not my label. That's my job. I'm a wife. It's not a label. It's my job. Like, it's part of my being. It's not a label that I put on myself. So, what kind of prompted this? I had a conversation with my daughter. She's 19, she's in college, and she was like, "Would you consider yourself a witch?" And I was like, "What?" Um, I don't know. like, um, Other people probably would. I mean, I do like ritual type stuff, but what is the difference between me making a list of intentions at a new moon and then, and focusing and meditating on them, or me making, like making a list of things that I'm ready to release and get rid of and burning it in a fire? Like, what is the difference between that kind of stuff and taking communion at church or baptism? Or like, it's all symbolic actions for with an intention behind it. There's a purpose, and it's based on a symbolic action, right? So you have an intention plus an action. So what is the difference between something that I do and something that you do when you go to church? Or, like, there's no difference. Like, why do we need to label everything? And here's why I think everyone wants to label stuff. Because it's easier. It's lazy. And here's why I say it's lazy. Today, like, not necessarily the younger generation, because I feel like the older generations are doing it too. I feel like I'm in the middle. I just turned 37. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of that. I'm not an old lady, old school, like, whatever. And I'm not, I mean, I guess technically based on my actual year of birth, I'm technically a millennial, but I don't identify as one. There's another label for you. Um, but I feel like it's the laziness is it comes from not wanting to get to know people, but putting a label on them first, judging them by that, and then not wanting to waste your energy on it. Now, I'm all for not wasting your energy on people who don't deserve it, but I am also all for knowing who the person is and knowing what their energy is before you decide that you want to either invest your energy or create a boundary, right? So I feel like it's easier for people to just say, okay, this person doesn't like country music, so we're not going to have anything in common. I don't need to talk to them. Or, like, this person doesn't like men, so I don't need to talk to them. Or, like, it creates a way, it creates an out. It gives you an excuse not to talk to somebody, or not to invest your time in them, or not to help them, or whatever. Like, it creates an excuse. I feel like if I can put you in this little box that I've labeled, then I know when or whether or not to engage with you. I feel like it's just kind of laziness. I would prefer to get to know somebody's energy, like, and it doesn't take that long. That's the thing. Like, if you work on yourself and you know yourself, it's really, really quick to pick up other people's energy and know what they're about. My hand's getting shaky. I didn't feel like setting up my tripod. See if I can do this without exposing the whole room. You don't need to see all that mess. Um, but I feel like it's just really a laziness factor. You don't have to spend weeks or months with somebody to know what they're all about. You can get to know somebody in a single conversation. And I feel like people just don't want to have conversations to get to know people anymore. You want to either swipe left or swipe right, right? Based on a label, based on a photo, based on some keywords. And I just feel like that's a big problem with society right now is nobody really wants to get to know anybody. You just want to assume based on first impressions alone. And honestly, first impressions are skewed these days with social media and like filters, and you don't know anybody until you actually take the time. You're gonna have to take a little bit of time and invest a little bit of energy in order to know if this is somebody worthwhile, somebody worth your time, your energy, whatever. And people just don't want to do that. So I feel like that's why if people feel the need to label something, label people, um, gender, labeling gender preferences, sexual preferences, um, income classes, whatever. There's I didn't really want to get into this, but I think I'm going to just a little bit. There's somebody that you may follow, another YouTuber, that like I followed this person, and when they were kind of just starting out and like really really felt their vibe, right? I felt a connection. And as this person's channel started to grow, their vibe changed. And like you can sense that, and it doesn't take long, just a couple of things, and it's just like, wow, this person's not the same anymore. I feel like they're the same person, but they're putting on a persona now that's not something I'm into. So, bye, right? But I feel like people just want to put labels on things and not get to know people. So, yeah, like just stop labeling people. Get to know people before you judge them. And it's not a long process. If you are in touch with yourself, it will be really easy to feel somebody's vibe out, like within a couple minutes of talking to them. Find a question that means something to you. Here, this kind of just came to me. Find a question, something that like means something to you, right? I wouldn't go political when you first meet somebody, but something that you're passionate about, you know, and make that your question, right? Make that, like, I'm trying to think of a good one. There's one that comes to mind, but this might steer the conversation a different way. Um, I'm a mom, so like this is kind of a very not very controversial, but slightly controversial. Do you like what are your thoughts on spanking? Something like that. Have a question. Now, their answer will tell who they are. If they make a joke and say something like in the bedroom, then you know something about them. If they immediately go to, oh, I can't believe people spank their children, or like spanking is the only way, or like then you get to know the person's vibe right away. So find a question that you would be something that is important to you, maybe not something quite so controversial, um, something that you can use to gauge people, um, and I feel like then you don't have to label them. You just know what their vibe is. I like people based on the energy I get from them. I don't. So going back to the original question, the thing that prompted this, my daughter asked me, "Would you say you're a witch?" Um, I don't. I don't want to label myself. I really don't want to label myself. We've had conversations about this before on other topics. Um, I don't label myself. Um, I don't think people should label people. That's just how I feel about it. If you have a label that you identify with and you want to be out there with it, that's great for you. Go for it. I'm not discounting people who enjoy their labels or feel the need to label themselves. If you do, that's you. Go for it. I know best of luck to you. Like, you're good. But I just, there was a lady at work that asked me about my necklace. I was wearing this necklace. Okay. You could see it. Good enough. I made it. It's rose quartz. Wire wrapped it myself. Um, and she asked me, why do you wear that? You could tell she was tiptoeing around the subject. So what is your necklace made of? What stone is that? Okay, and when they use words like stone and not rock, I know that they're into something, that they're just kind of holding back a little bit. Um, and I always kind of felt this person's vibe. I had never talked to her before, and this is kind of our first conversation. Uh, but I always was just like, I like her vibe. Like I want to talk to her, not in a crush kind of way, but in a like I know this person has good vibes, and I feel like this person should be somebody that I can connect with. But this ended up being our first conversation. Go figure. So I told her, I said it's rose quartz, and she said, "Why do you wear it?" Nobody asks somebody why they wear a specific piece of jewelry, okay? Unless they know what it's about. It's like, well, basically, it keeps me from being a bitch. It helps me connect to my heart and to function on a loving level. And because we're at work and I work in retail, which can be stressful and annoying, and customers just can be rude. But that was kind of my answer. It's like it keeps me from being a bitch, keeps me focused on love and being coming from a loving place. And that led to the question, which this happened maybe a week after my daughter and I had the conversation about how I wouldn't label myself. But if I had to, I would say, yeah, I guess people would think I'm a witch. Um, Anyways, so I was just like, she said, so are you like, and she was like tiptoeing like crazy. And she's like, well, like, would you say like white? Like she was trying to find another word for witch. And I was just like, I interrupted her because she was struggling. Me and my daughter were just talking about that, whether or not I would label myself that. I said, basically, we kind of came to the conclusion that if I needed to be labeled, that yeah, I guess that would be my label. And then we got interrupted and never finished the conversation. So, um, but yeah, that kind of remembering that interaction prompted me to talk about labels and how I feel like labels are for storage boxes and not for people. Um, I don't like to label myself. I am attracted to people's energy. I physical appearance means zip to me. um, but yeah, so I feel like labeling people based on their preferences, their and I'm not just like talking about gender and sexuality or anything like that. Like music taste or like whether or not they like to color their hair or whether they wear too much makeup or whether they wear no makeup, like just judging people and giving them a label without getting to know them sucks. And if you like, I feel like people who won't talk to somebody or won't give them their energy based on a label, I feel like you're missing out. And I really would encourage you to find a question to ask that will give you a taste of their vibe and allow you to determine whether or not they're worth your energy. I'm all for having boundaries, don't get me wrong, but I feel like putting a label on somebody is judging them without getting to know them. And yeah, that's how I feel about labels. If you feel me, if you understand, drop an emoji in the comments, just so I know that this is kind of making sense to you guys. Um, totally open for discussion if you guys want to chat in the comments. Um, I'm also on Facebook and I want to start doing live card pulls for you guys. So I can't do that here on YouTube because I don't have enough subscribers to go live mobile and blah blah blah. So eventually we'll get there, but I can do it on Facebook. They don't have a minimum requirement for live videos there, as far as I can tell. So yeah, the links are in my in the description box if you're interested in that. But I'm being beckoned, so I'm going to wrap this up and say thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to your comments, and I will see you on Facebook. Talk to you later. Bye.